Hello everybody, I'm Ray, and as per the name of the channel, I love to read. So I am starting off 2025 with a buddy read, and I'm going to try and do some videos as I go along with this one. Now, if you've not read any of Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings, I would say stop right here. This video is for people who want to read along, because these books are incredible, and I want you to go in with fresh eyes. I want you to enjoy these books from the beginning because they are special, and I don't want to spoil the experience for you. But if you're an Elderlings fan, welcome to the read along. So I'm doing this buddy read with Cams from Cams Campbell Reads. I will tag his YouTube channel below. He reads all sorts of different things. Very interesting channel. He's a great guy to listen to talk. So yes, this is where we're at. We're starting. Now, Fitz we first came across in the first trilogy, the Farseer trilogy, and oh, I have such an attachment to these characters. This is such a fully realised world. I don't think I've ever loved characters or cared for them or wanted for characters like this in my life. Robin Hobb is an absolute genius. She's an absolute master, both of plotting, of characterisation. I've never seen it done better. And when I first finished the Farseer trilogy a long while ago, a few years ago, I read Assassin's Quest and oh, that book nearly got flung across the room because not because it was a bad book, but because I was so unsatisfied with that being the end of the story. And then I found out that there are 6 more books. So all was forgiven. I undid my 3-star rating, which was, like I say, a salty overreaction to thinking that was how it ended. Yeah, I moved on to the Tawny Man trilogy, and these are books that I'm savouring, so I've not kind of rushed and read them straight away. They're books, and I think the pause did me good because over that time period, Fitz grew up. I think it was about 8 or 10 years passed between the first trilogy and, he's been off doing living in a cabin with night eyes. He's raising a son, having relations with Starling. He's been living his life. A lot of time has gone by, and to come back to it after that period of time, I think, was a good choice. It wasn't really a choice. I just got distracted by other books. I'm not gonna lie. I read other stuff. Anyway, so I started the Tawny Man trilogy, and immediately, as Cams puts it, it's like putting on an old pair of slippers. I mean, I don't wear slippers. I don't particularly like slippers. Probably the metaphor probably doesn't work for me. It's like putting on a nice fluffy jumper. We come back into Fitz's world, and obviously time has passed, and you don't care any less at all. You still really care about all of these characters. You want to know what they've been up to. Yeah, so I finished Fool's Errand, which was the first of the Tawny Man. I think I finished that in 2023. I'm not 100% on that. But last year I read The Golden Fool, which if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that was my favourite book of 2024. Not that there's much competition, because Robin Hobb is such an amazing writer that she just blows everything else out of the park. She's perfection. Honestly, her writing is just gorgeous, and her stories are gorgeous, and her characters, I could just gush about them for ages. And I'm not usually a fangirl. I don't usually do fangirling, but I think if I met Robin Hobb, I'd just blank. It would probably be like the Stuart Turton thing all over again. I'm such a big fan. I'm really starstruck. Oh my days, Ray. 2 great authors there. Yeah, so now I am buddy reading Fool's Fate with Cams. Now, we start this book at the beginning of a potential quest, and Dutiful has been asked by the Narcheska to go and cut off a dragon's head who has been encased in ice for centuries on this island called Asjval? Aslav? I'll have to check that. Asla. There's a J and an L in there somewhere. Aslavjal, I think it. Aslavjal? Aslavjal. Yes, we'll go with Aslavjal. I read it in my head. I don't. I don't read it aloud. So, anyway, the dragon is called Icefire, and the fool, who is, as we all know, has an idea of destiny, and that he is going to use his catalyst, which is Fitz, to bring about change in the world. So Fitz is about to embark on this quest with Dutiful, and they're going to be conflicting loyalties here, because Dutiful's supposed to be chopping the dragon's head off. The fool doesn't think this is a good idea in terms of his whole fated plan for the world. So, you know, we've got a kind of what's going to happen there kind of situation bubbling along already. And yeah, back to bookkeep. Let's see what happens.
Sometimes it seems unfair that events so old can reach forward through the years, sinking claws into one's life, and twisting all that follows it. Yet perhaps that is the ultimate justice. We are the sum of all we have done added to the sum of all that has been done to us. There is no escaping that, not for any of us.
Okay, so this is my read-along of Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb, and it's the third book in the Tawny Man trilogy. And I started it a few days ago. I've been reading about a chapter a day. And I've only finished chapter 3, and already my heart is hurting. Like, this book is going to end me. I can just feel it now. At first I was just so glad to be back in the castle, back in bookkeep with Fitz, with the fool. But the emotion, I just can't take the emotion. It's too much. It's just too much. Oh, what a phenomenal writer. So yeah, I wish I could stay up and read it some more, but I'm gonna go to bed now. But I think I'm going to get through this one quite quickly. Oh.
For lack of anything else to do, I lay on the bed and teased the ferret.
One thing that I'm finding really enjoyable with reading these fantasy novels, and this is something that Instagram kept recommending to me, because I must be kind of into ambient or sleep music, because I keep getting these playlists recommended to me. And there's one which is like Witcher piano vibes. So there's one that's like Skyrim snoozing or something. I don't think it's called Skyrim snoozing. But anyway, so these video game, kind of fantasy video game soundtracks, but super snoozy, super ambient, and just having it on in the background. It just feels right with these books. I'm not usually one to put anything on in the background when I'm reading. I like to stay I like to stay nice and quiet, so I can, because my brain, you know, gets very easily distracted. But as background noise, it kind of feels like you're in a tavern, in a tavern reading in this world. It brings something to it. So I've enjoyed that, and it's a bit of a surprise.
So I'm going to read to you one of my favourite passages so far from Fool's Fate. And it's an encounter between Fitz and the fool. Beside me at the table, I was aware of the fool making some small movement, but my vision was unfocused on the room, and I had no warning of his intentions until his hand settled on my wrist. His fingertips unerringly found... I'm rubbish at reading books, right. His fingertips unerringly found their own faded grey fingerprints left on my flesh so many years ago. His touch was gentle, but the sensation was an arrow in my heart. I physically spasmed, a speared fish, and then froze. The fool ran through my veins, hot as liquor, cold as ice. For a flashing instant we shared physical awareness. The intensity of it went beyond any joining I'd ever experienced. It was more intimate than a kiss and deeper than a knife thrust. Beyond a skill link and beyond sexual coupling, even beyond my wit bond with Night Eyes. It was not a sharing, it was a becoming. Neither pain nor pleasure could encompass it. Worse, I felt myself turning and opening to it as if it were my lover's mouth upon mine, yet I did not know if I would devour or be devoured. In another heartbeat we would be one another, knew one another more perfectly than two separate beings ever should. And I'm gonna leave it there, but it's an absolutely beautiful passage. The relationship between Fitz and the Fool is just so beautiful. It's almost romantic without being sexual, and it's just, my heart is so engrossed in these books. And yeah, so that was really lovely, and I wanted to share that. So I have another beautiful passage here, and this one is when they're on a ship, and unfortunately Thick is very, very seasick, and he is not having a good time on the boat at all. Something that several family members of mine, I'm sure, would sympathise with very much. And Nettle, who obviously is Fitz's daughter and who's been present in his skill dreams, has the ability to change her dreams and others. So we have this conception of Thick as a kitten who feels like he's drowning, feels like he's dying, and Nettle goes into his dream to try and help him. "You're all right now," she told the kitten authoritatively. She stroked the tiny creature, and in the wake of her hand his fur was dry and soft. He was striped orange and white, I suddenly saw. A moment before I had thought he had been black. "You're alive and safe, and I will not let any evil befall you. And I know that you can trust me because I love you." At her words my throat closed up and choked me. I wondered how she knew them to say. All my life, without knowing it, I had wanted someone to say those words to me and have them be true and believable. It was like watching someone give to another the gift you had always longed for. And yet I did not feel bitterness or envy. All I felt was wonder that at 16 she would have that in her to give to another. Even if I could have found Thick in his dream, even if someone had told me those were the words I must say, the words he most desperately needed to hear, I could not have said them and made them true as she did. She was my daughter, blood of my blood, and yet the wonder and amazement she made me feel at that moment made her a creation entirely apart from me. Isn't that lovely? Just the writing and just the emotion that goes into this story and in this prose. It's absolutely beautiful. And I apologise, I dog-eared the page. Oh, come on, this is one of those books that I'm going to treasure and that I'm going to read again and again, I'm sure. So forgive me a dog ear or two so that I know where to find these lovely passages. So anybody that I've spoken Elderlings to will know that one of my favourite characters is Burrick. And Burrick, the grumpy, stoic father figure who cares so much for Fitz but doesn't really, show it in, a very demonstrative way. He's the character that my heart goes out to. And after I finished Assassin's Quest, I was so angry, because I thought that's where the story ended, and I didn't realise that there were another 6 books to go. And I couldn't stand the idea. And this is one of the things that last in The Golden Fool teased me so horribly, was Burrick not realising that Fitz was still alive. And this has been, of all the things that I wanted to happen in this series, Burrick finding out that Fitz is still alive has been the thing that I longed for the most. And in this chapter, Fitz has obviously conveyed through Nettle that a message that only he would understand. And in doing so, she gives him a message back. And that message is, "If I dream of the wolf again," my father says,
I am to tell him, you should have come home a long time ago. And when I read that, I did tear up a bit. I know I don't usually cry when I read books, or I do a little bit, but you know, I don't usually admit to it. But yeah, no, just Burrick knowing that Fitz is still alive, I'm so thankful. Because I thought that Robin Hobb was going to not allow that. I thought after the Golden Fool, as Fitz just watched Burrick turn up at Bookkeep and didn't announce himself, didn't show himself, and Catrican and Shade were like, "Come on, dude, you'd probably rather know." So I'm really pleased about that. Obviously, they've not been reunited or anything, but that made my heart swell. So Cams, who I'm buddy reading Fool's Fate with, said to me a few chapters ago, you know, I'm not entirely happy with Fitz's decision to leave the Fool behind. And I was like, well, as if he's not going to turn up. And here we are at the start of chapter 13, and I just want to say I called it. I mean, okay, the book's called Fool's Fate, but I still just want it to be known. Called it. So I've just finished chapter 18, and one of the things with the relationship between Fitz and the Fool that I've never been quite certain about is whether or not it's a romantic relationship. Because obviously the Fool is very much in love with Fitz and always has been. At least that's my understanding of it. And like, obviously, a lot of the way that their relationship is written is like they're soulmates, like they're, you know, two people who are just basically meant for each other. But whether or not that's a romantic or sexual relationship is something that I've never been quite certain which way it's going to go, and whether that is the intention or not. And last night when Fitz takes the Fool's hand and they're sleeping next to each other, I was very, my heart was very warmed, and to think that that some of that kind of yearning and romantic energy between them is intentional, and that it may develop. And like, it doesn't matter either way, because obviously it's a very singular relationship and there's devotion there, whether it's as friends, as brothers, as general kind of people fated to know each other, or whether it's something, you know, something more kind of basically romantic or basically you know, kind of sexual between them. And I just want so badly for Fitz to fall in love with the Fool, and for them to for all of that to be acknowledged. That's what I want to happen. That's where my kind of, you know, that's where my heart lies. But also I recognise that it's not necessarily the case. And yeah, I don't want to turn into like fan fiction Ray, who's like, whether it's platonic or not, I don't know. We'll have to just see where Robin Hobb takes the story. And I trust what she's doing with her characters. To me, they're real people. Like, they feel so much like real people, and I care so much about them. And obviously there is a distinction between romance, sexual attraction, very strong friendship. You know, there's all manner of different relationships. So I actually, you know, I don't know where this is going. I don't know whether this was something that was, in terms of these books, they seem so well planned, and yet I don't know whether Hobb started writing expecting one thing to happen, and or if it's all been kind of mapped out from the start, from, you know, from the very first book. They all feel very, very well planned out, and it's almost like there's an inevitability about everything that happens, that you think this is, you know, this couldn't have happened and couldn't have played out any other way. It's just lovely. It's just lovely, and it always has been lovely. Like, when it comes to the Fool himself, I've probably never been more in love with a character. I know people always talk about their book boyfriends or their book girlfriends. I don't tend to have that experience most of the time, but the Fool is such a wonderful character. He's gentle and mysterious and clever, and he's got this kind of androgynous beauty. He's just absolutely fascinating, and the thing I love most about him is his absolute singular devotion to Fitz and to what's right. He is such a moral person, and yeah, I love the Fool. I think he's a wonderful character. Um, he is rivaled only by Night Eyes, who is possibly my favourite character of all time. Night Eyes was truly special. And I like Burrick. I've got a soft spot for Burrick too. He's got such fatherly gruffness, and I like that. It's just oh, these books are going to break me, aren't they? I wonder, because obviously the book is called Fool's Fate, and the Fool has predicted his death. So there has to be some kind of some kind of, like, it's been foreseen that the Fool's going to die in some respect. Now, I'm wondering, because the next trilogy is called Fitz and the Fool. I have no idea whether he makes it or not. I'm just literally guessing at this point. But I'm wondering if there's some kind of joining or link, if Fitz and the Fool kind of become one in some sense. I don't know. I don't know. I shall have to read on and find out. Please don't break my heart, book, because it's January, it's winter, it's cold, and I'm already sad. So don't make me sadder, make me happy.
So I'm just waiting for my dad to get back out of Morrison's. So I thought I'd just have a quick chat with you about last night's Fool's Fate adventures. Oh my goodness, this book is killing me. I think I cried most of my way through chapter 22. It's just such a beautiful piece of writing, and it's like all of my emotional attachments coming together in a big supernova of dragon waking activity. And there were ups and downs, and I didn't know. Oh, it was just insanely emotional. So yeah, I'll be reading on tonight, but oh, it's hard work. My friend Cam's, I remember we read, I think it was basically the chapter where because I said how much I was enjoying, I didn't expect it to go into the icy underworld that they seem to have fallen into, and it was all very surprising. And you know, I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting it to go. this island may not be as abandoned as we thought it. So, you know, I was talking about that, and my friend said to me, well, I've just finished I think it was chapter 20 or 21. And he said, yeah, I've just finished chapter 21, let's say, chapter 20. I've just finished chapter 21. It was not cozy. And I sent him a message in the middle of the night that said basically, because not cozy is certainly, you know, heartbreakingly devastating. I don't even want to like think too much about what might happen, because I'm still hoping everything's going to work out okay. The Fool's going to get rescued. The Fool's going to get rescued, right? Someone's going to rescue the Fool, right? Right, Robin Hobb, you're not gonna let the fool get forged and go into a dragon, right? And Boric will be alright too, right? It's gonna have a happy ending. You can't do this to me. I'm not going to think about it too much. I apologise if I've got shadows on my face. We are in the car park. Yeah, I just thought I would share that with you because I'll be reading some more of that this evening.
Oh my goodness. The Pale Woman is doing some Ramsay Bolton stuff. And now I'm fuming. And so basically, we've not found the fool yet, but we've found part of him on the floor. And not cool. Not cool at all. I am full of wrath at how you could do this to my poor fool. I mean, I've got a feeling that Fitz is going to go and sort her out in a stabby way. But my goodness. Not cool, Pale Woman. So I've been reading and I've got a couple more passages that I've kind of dog-eared. Please forgive me, I'm still dog-earing. Here are a couple more that I've highlighted. Not highlighted, I haven't actually. The annotations haven't gone quite that far just yet. Longwick is asking Fitz why he doesn't want to be known as Fitz Chivalry and why he wants to go back to being known as Tom Badgerlock. And Longwick can't really understand that, so he says, very well, but I think it's a shame. You deserve better. What of glory? What of men knowing what you've done and who you are and giving you the acclaim you deserve for your success? Don't you want to be remembered for what you've done? I didn't need to think long. What man has not played that game late at night, staring into the fire's embers? I'd been down the road of what might have been so often that I knew every crossroad and pitfall in it. I'd rather be forgotten for the things people think I've done, and I'd give it all if I could forget and the things I'd failed to do. And there we left it. I hope to look on the pale woman's body. I hope to find her dead, to know that she died for all she has done to us, and if I find her living, I hope to kill her. It was a small and simple promise I'd made to myself. I doubted it would be easy to carry out, but it was the only comfort I could find to offer myself. You look a different man when you talk like that, Swift said in a hushed voice. He leaned close to me. When you talk like that, you have a wolf's eyes. I shook my head and smiled. At least my teeth showed. No. No wolf wastes time on vengeance. And that is what this is, vengeance pure and simple. When people look most vicious, what you are seeing is not their animal side. It is the savagery that only humans can muster. When you see me loyal to my family, then you see the wolf. I just want to make it known before I finish this book. So at the moment, Fitz is back at Bookkeep. He's just been reunited with Patience. He's met Nettle for the first time. It all looks like we're going to be heading for a happy ending, but I am certain that when Fitz goes back to Aslav Jarl, I'm absolutely certain that the fool's not going to be there. He's going to return to the cave and he's going to find them gone. I just know that that's what's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong. I want a happy ever after. There was that moment when the fool was almost asked Fitz to come with him and then didn't. I was never fully on board with the Molly Fitz romance. I wanted Molly and Boric to live happily ever after. I think, you know, oh, I care too much about this. Anyway, I've got about 80 pages left, so there's still some heartbreaking to be done. Okay, so the Fool was there when he went back through the skill pillar, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to be there next time. I'm probably going to finish this book tonight. But it's just too much emotion. I'm not coping. I'm not coping. And then there's a whole 4 books to read before I get to find out, you know, how the final trilogy ends. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to find something else to read for a bit. Just to, like, give my poor heart a break. So I finally finished this beautiful, beautiful book. And it's probably taking the top spot as my favourite book of all time. It's up there with the Glass Books of the Dream Eaters, One Day by David Nichols, and all the other books in this series. There was so much emotion going through my head during this exceptional, exceptional book. Now I get to finally talk about the ending, and yeah, like I say, it's been a roller coaster ride, and I have thoughts. And I actually wondered how honest to be about this, because, like, Fitz and Molly, they're back together. Yay! I'm not sure how I feel about this. Like, I'm gonna level with you guys. For me, the big romance is Fitz and the Fool. They're soulmates, they're meant to be together. They're meant to share all the tragedy and all the pain and everything. They're just, for me, that's, and I think that this is intentional, because the last words of the book are, "I am content." Content is a very averagey kind of reaction. You know, I don't think this book should have ended any other way. I think, you know, I'm perfectly content with the choices that have been made. I feel like this is how Fitz's journey was supposed to go. He's obviously been on this big adventure. He's spent 16 years out in the wilderness by himself. Now he's reconnecting with the life that he should have had. And he's building back all these friendships, all these relationships. Burrick is out of the picture, conveniently. For me, Molly and Burrick was the big, like, Burrick was there for Molly for 16 years. Like, they were the relationship, you know. I feel like, honestly, what I would like to happen is if she'd been like, because Fitz is all like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go back and get what I always, you know, Molly and I should have always been together. But he made his choice. He made his choice, and if I was Molly, I'd have been like, mate. Like, do you think I would have chosen you over Burrick? Burrick is amazing. Burrick has been there for me all this time. We have 7 children together. We have built a life together. Where have you been? You've been in a cabin with a wolf. Like, that was your choice. And, you know, I wouldn't have let him off the hook so easily. Like, their entire relationship, it wasn't like they had this great romance. Their entire relationship is him not putting enough energy into her and her being, like, annoyed at him. Like, that's literally their entire, all of their communication was just her being stressed out by him and him not giving enough. So you can't just go and have your adventures and then come back and be like, oh, by the way, my adoptive father has passed away, so now I'm here to take care of the kids. But on the other hand, I think that this is deliberate. I think this is what Hobb meant things to be like, because when I finished the third one, Assassin's Quest, when I finished the Farseer trilogy, I was so angry I nearly threw the book across the room, because I was like, what? Boric thinks he's dead? He needs to go and let his adoptive father know that he's okay. Like, this is not cool. And it broke my heart, and I was really, really cross. And then I found out that there were another 6 books, so I was like, okay. Still the best thing I've read. We'll give it a chance. And this series, like, honestly, in so many ways put my broken heart back together. This was an absolutely beautiful book, and there were moments in this book that are my favourite moments from that I've ever read. Like Fitz saving the Fool, all of that, all of those scenes where they're together in the you know, in that lost marketplace, just the two of them, and when the Fool kisses his trauma back into him, kisses all that pain back into him and makes him whole again. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The most emotional I've ever felt. His being reunited with Boric, and Boric just being like, there's no kind of saltiness at all. He's just my boy, I'm glad you're back, you know. Like, this book was just so much, and all of the, you know, kind of all of the struggles, all of the fate, all of the whole mission, all of the everything about this book was wonderful. Like, honestly, it's probably my favorite book of all time. But I'm going to tell you honestly how I feel after finishing it. So after I finished the Farseer trilogy, I was very much kind of what I wanted to happen, it did not happen, and now Fitz is living in a life of isolation where, you know, where all of the people who meant something to him aren't in touch with him anymore, and that hurt me. And then obviously, you know, we've come back to him all those years later, and I have a feeling we're having the same thing done to us again, because the ending with the Fool is just insufficient. I think it's purposefully insufficient. Like, they just kind of, see ya. This might be the last time I ever see you. See ya. I'm erasing myself from your life. See ya. Oh my goodness. It's like that. It's not even like there's a big bit, you know, at the end of, I'm about to kind of start comparing it to an Adam Sandler movie. So yeah, let's not go there. Yeah, I am unsatisfied, and I think I'm supposed to be unsatisfied. It's a happy ending. It's a neatly tied up ending. Nobody is, nobody's exiled. Everything's, you know, he's content. But this is not how it's supposed to end between him and the Fool. So I'm really, really hoping that the next trilogy, which obviously I've got all of these dragon books to read before I get to it, and also it's probably best if I give my poor heart a break before we find out, you know, just how deep their friendship lies. And for me, because for me, Fitz and the Fool, I want him to give his whole heart to the Fool. That is what I want. I have never loved a character so much. Am I projecting? Am I just in love with the Fool and wanting them to get together from that point of view? Yes, a little bit. A little bit. A little bit. Oh, it hurts. It really hurts. And yeah, well, you know, as long as they're happy, I suppose. But this is not how the story should end. Like, I'd have thought, you know, you'd think I'd be all kind of weepy-eyed over the happy ending, but I'm not. Like, for me, the emotional bits were when they were on Aslavjal, that kind of, you know, that sacrifice for each other, that kind of unspoken love, the yearning. Oh, there's a book, the Subterranean press edition of The Mad Ship, which has a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous cover. And I actually really, really want a copy of that, just for the artwork, just for that cover. Amber and what's the name? Not Poseidon. Amber and her beloved live ship, back to back, and you know, I just want an ending that conjures that kind of love for me. And you know, for me, like I say, for me, that's where the romance lies. And I just, yeah, Boric. you know, for me, if they'd brought Burrick back and they'd all just been buds, that would have been fine. I'd have been okay with that. I love Burrick. He's like the father figure, and yeah, there was lots of crying. Like, I cried my eyes out through chapter, I think it's chapter 34. I cried my eyes out through several of the chapters. Look at all my dog ears of the chapter, of the bits where I, you know, really whole. The bit where Fitz and the Fool, kind of where the Fool kisses Fitz and puts all the pain that he put into Girl on the Dragon back into him. If I think of all that befell me as a linked chain that brings me finally to this place with you kneeling by the water alive and whole, then the price was not too high. To see you whole again heals me. He was right, I was whole again. How can you do this to me? Am I just fanfictioning? Am I just fanfictioning all of the books I read? Anyway, this was beautiful. It's been a beautiful buddy read. I spoke to Cams about the whole Fitz and Molly situation. He thinks that he's been rooting for Fitz and Molly since the very beginning. Yeah. They're okay. They're okay. I actually quite like Starling. Don't unfollow me. Oh goodness, yeah, I'm not very well. Anyway, that was our read along. I need a break. And it was wonderful. I have never had such an emotional rollercoaster reading a book before in my life. So thank you, Robin Hobb. Thank you for this absolute masterpiece. It's been wonderful, and thank you so much to Cams for sharing the journey with me. It's been a blast.
In that last dance of chances, I shall partner you no more. I shall watch another turn you as you move across the floor. In that last dance of chances, when I bid your life goodbye, I will hope she treats you kindly, I will hope you learn to fly. In that last dance of chances, when I know you'll not be mine, I will let you go with longing and the hope that you'll be fine. In that last dance of chances, we shall know each other's minds. We shall part with our regrets when the tie no longer binds.